And hello everyone, and welcome to the story so far. I'm your host, Cape Joel, and if you've never seen this video series before, it's a little different than some of the other stuff I do on my channel. Normally when I cover comics, I cover them individually, issue to issue, give you little vertical slices. Here though, I kind of take a bigger, more in-depth look at a comic as a whole, usually one that's already finished a single arc. But in this case, Batman Universe has finished in its entirety. Now there's a lot of interesting backstory to Batman Universe. It comes to us courtesy of Brian Michael Bendis, a man who had so much interest and so much push behind him when he came to DC just a few years ago from Marvel. It was a huge get, you know, it was a huge poaching. No one ever thought they would see Bendis writing for DC Comics, and I gotta say, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here, and I think many people would agree, I'm not in love with Bendis's current DC work. I've stopped reading his Superman, I stopped reading his Young Justice very early. I'm not reading much of what's going on in the Wonderline, although from what I understand there's some really good, very funny books in the Wonderline. It just didn't do it for me. I was pretty soured on all of Brian Michael Bendis' work, but amidst all of this, the fans, you out there had told me, Joel, before you give up on him wholeheartedly, you have to read Batman Universe, and well, I did. Batman Universe, for those who don't know, is actually a collection of a bunch of smaller stories from the DC Batman giant comics that you could only buy in Walmart. That's kind of a whole subject unto itself. I know I could never find any in my local Walmart. I hear many stories of people not being able to find these giant-sized DC comics because Walmart either doesn't care or makes it difficult. I got the first one of this, a physical version of the first Batman giant, only because a nice fan sent it to me, and you know, thank you, whoever you are from that. Always much appreciated when fans send me stuff. But with that out of the way, how exactly is Batman Universe? Well, let's get right into that, shall we? As we join the comic, Batman is on the trail of the Riddler. He's talking to Alfred. Oh yeah, Alfred is actually alive in the time that this comic is taking place. Not that that really matters. These Walmart giant comics seem to take place outside of continuity anyway, and as I'll try and explain, I think this book is actually better for existing outside continuity. So yes, as I mentioned, Batman is on the trail of the Riddler. He sent him a riddle, a rather confusing one. When is the Riddler not the Riddler? Which Batman admits is pretty damn lazy, and Alfred agrees. Alfred says of all of Batman's rogues gallery, he always liked and always kind of respected Edward Nygma because, you know, he always tried. He always, you know, went that extra mile to make his crimes make sense and have them connect to a riddle. And I feel in some meta sense, this is Brian Michael Bendis talking about how hard it is to actually write a Riddler story and why we don't get as many amazing Riddler stories, because you gotta write a book, gotta write 3 acts, have it make sense, and also tell a riddle that makes sense and have the caper that the Riddler is doing connected to the riddle. Also, the riddle itself, the Batman says, is so crappy. When is the Riddler not like the Riddler is very, very close to me to that famous joke with, famous riddle with no answer from Alice in Wonderland, and that is, you know, why is a raven like a writing desk? And the answer is there is no answer. It's a stupid riddle with no answer. It seems that the Riddler has planned to steal a priceless Fabergé egg, and to do this he's made use of a Riddler flash mob. He basically put out a Craigslist ad on the internet saying, oh yeah, come dress up as the Riddler, we're doing a big art project here, and he used this as one giant smokescreen so he could sneak on in and grab the egg. Batman manages to get his trail, but then swiftly loses it in all of the chaos. With no other evidence to really go on, Batman decides to look into the history of the Fabergé egg that was stolen. Turns out that it was donated to the museum by, wait for it, one Jinny Hex, as in great-great-grand descendant of famous cowboy hero Jonah Hex. Obviously, Bendis had created Jinny Hex for his Young Justice run, and now we actually get to see her show up in this, which I think is pretty damn cool. I'm, of course, a massive Jonah Hex fan, and already out of the gate, Brian Michael Bendis is kind of breaking my walls down like Jericho and getting me to open my mind and my heart and like, oh, okay, what do we got going on here? There's actually a really funny scene where Batman, in broad daylight, which you do not get very much, goes to Middle America, goes to the garage where Jinny Hex is working to try and get, you know, the 411 on this egg. Basically, she found it in a whole box belonging to Jonah Hex. She wanted nothing to do with it. She didn't even know if it was worth money, and so she just kind of donated the thing. Now, the story is called Batman Universe, and it actually really lives up to this because Batman is just ping-ponging all over the damn globe in this story. He goes from Jinny Hex's place in Middle America to Amsterdam, where the Riddler has been spotted again. Batman noticing that the Riddler is really acting out of character right now. He doesn't steal like this. He doesn't typically leave Gotham. He's almost certain that someone is pulling his strings right now and that he's actually working for a third party. It's at this point he actually comes under attack by Deathstroke, famous super assassin, meaning that whoever hired the Riddler also has very deep pockets to be able to hire Deathstroke because he does not come cheap. Batman fights the good fight, and in the end he's actually helped out by the inclusion of Green Arrow. Yeah, Oliver Queen comes by to help him out, and obviously if you know anything about me and my channel, I positively love Green Arrow. So already in this Bendis story, we've gotten a Jonah Hex connection, and we've gotten a Green Arrow cameo. I swear, it's like he was writing this story for me or something. Batman and Green Arrow decide to team up, and they start chasing the Riddler all over the rooftops of Amsterdam. This is kind of funny because I remember back in the Judd Winnick days of Green Arrow, the black-haired Riddler was actually a Green Arrow villain for a long period of time, so it's kind of fun to see them come back like this. Batman discovers that the Fabergé egg is giving off some sort of strange radiation, which means that whatever it is, it's not only value, but it's probably, you know, dangerous as well as being valuable. Green Arrow opens the box, he gets sprayed with some kind of gas that makes him go crazy, and because, you know, people love superhero team-ups, we also know they love superhero fights even more, and we get Batman versus Green Arrow. Batman wins naturally, but in a funny little post-fight thing, Ollie asks him, I won, right, when I went crazy, right? I won that fight? Sure, Ollie, you won. You totally won. Batman not wanting to hurt his friend's ego, and that's another thing about this story. Batman being very friendly and very collaborative with other people in the superhero community. I know that shouldn't seem weird, that shouldn't seem out of the ordinary, but compared to what Tom King was writing at the same time that this was going on, this Batman really might as well be a completely different person, a completely much more well-adjusted person. Riddler ends up managing to give our two heroes the slip while they were busy fighting each other, and we discover that the person who hired the Riddler, or really is manipulating him in this case, turns out to be Vandal Savage. But Vandal Savage doesn't look the way that he normally does. He looks very sick. He's bald. He's not looking good. At first I thought the artist was just, you know, kind of playing around, being like, oh, you know, it's out of continuity, so I can make Vandal look however I want to make him look. You know, he's not going to have the long hair or the beard. I'm going to make him look something different. No, as we find out later, Vandal is actually quite sick, which is rare for him because he's an immortal caveman. That's literally his origin, that's literally his power, so as far as we know, he shouldn't be getting sick, but he is. Back at the Batcave, Batman tries to run some experiments on the egg to really try and get to the bottom of what he's working with here, why it's so damn mysterious, and it's right around here they throw in probably the coolest gimmick of this story, and that is this mysterious egg just isn't radioactive, but it can actually teleport you. And not just teleport you places on Earth, it can teleport you everywhere in the universe. And for starters, the egg ends up blasting Batman to Gorilla City. But not the Gorilla City we know, another Gorilla City with talking gorillas in it. And the truly funny thing, and make no mistake, this is a very funny comic, the gorillas know who Batman is. You know, Batman's reputation precedes him even here amongst talking gorillas, and Batman is very mindful too that, oh, you better watch his P's and Q's here because Gorilla City is a sovereign nation, and he doesn't want to start an international incident with talking super smart gorillas, because I mean, really, who would? It also seems that the same force that is blasting Batman around all over the place is doing the same for the Riddler. Batman can't even catch Enigma before he gets teleported once again, this time to Thanagar, home of the Hawk people, and once again his interaction interaction with the Hawk people is just goddamn hilarious. They basically put him in like, what is it, like an interrogation room, because, you know, they're treating him like an enemy combatant. He showed up out of nowhere. They don't know if they can trust him, but then eventually that gets worn down, and the Thanagarians are like, oh no, don't worry, Batman. We thought you were who you said you were, but you never be too careful in a world full of shapeshifters and everything. We placed a call to Hawkman and Hawkwoman of the Justice League, and they said you were cool and you can come hang out with us. And again, my mind is just blown, and I love this idea that even in the deepest parts of space, even amongst the Hawk people, Batman is a celebrity and they know who he is. But the best joke, though, comes later, when the Thanagarians are like, oh yeah, well, hey, Batman, we'll help you out with this egg thing as much as we can. Come fly with us. Oh, what do you mean you can't fly? You mean that cape isn't wings? Well, we assumed you were the Batman of Earth, and we assumed you could fly with wings, so they give him rental wings. Again, this is a story that's kind of, you know, fast and loose and doesn't really take itself seriously, and there are some really great jokes here. You forget how funny a comic writer Bendis can be, but here you can tell he's just working through a treasure trove of Batman material that he's had, and it's all just really good stuff. It's here too, Batman starts getting really annoyed because he keeps getting teleported around the universe so much it's making solving this case very difficult. He can't get a hold of the Riddler, he can barely get a hold of the egg. He gets blasted back to Gorilla City, only to find out that the whole place has been leveled by Vandal Savage while looking for the egg. It's here Batman does something which I would say should be in his character, but is so often not in his character, and that is he actually goes to the Justice League for help, and he has a little powwow with Cyborg and especially Green Lantern. Naturally, he's a space cop, and funnier still, Vandal Savage originally was a Green Lantern villain. A lot of people forget this, but Hal has his own working theory about what the egg might be. He thinks it might open up a slingshot wormhole, which, you know, is strictly theoretical, and by all right, it should probably have killed a mortal man like Batman to do it once, but meanwhile, he's done it several times, and, you know, hasn't killed him because he's more than just a man. He's the goddamn Batman, and no slingshot wormhole is gonna kill him. From there, Green Lantern agrees to team up with Batman, and they go together to Dinosaur Island. It's right here, I think it finally officially hit me what Bendis was doing with this story and what it was trying to be, and that is that Batman universe in the year 2019 is a big, giant, sloppy, over-the-top love letter to the Silver Age of DC Comics, where anything could happen, where you could have dinosaurs and aliens and Batman together, and it would all make sense, and that's kind of exactly what they're doing in this story. There's a lot of comedy, too, as I mentioned before. There's an absolute, like, knee slapper of a bit while Bruce and Hal are flying through the island looking for Vandal Savage's stronghold, and Hal basically says, you know, why have you never hung out at my house? I hang out at your place all the time, you know, stately Wayne Manor, you know, the Batcave. Why, you think you're better than me? Why do we never hang out at my house? And it's true, I've never thought of that. Yeah, why don't you hang out at other heroes' houses more? I guess it's hard to beat a mansion, right? I mean, not everyone's gonna have a butler handing out sandwiches. Now, by the time Green Lantern and Batman are able to corner Vandal Savage, he's got the egg, and yep, you guessed it, can't get too comfortable in this story. Boom, we're getting shot around again. This time, though, they don't get thrown to a different part of the universe, they get thrown to a different part of time. Because the egg can do that too. They get thrown to the Wild West right in front of the path of Jonah Hex. Yeah, that's right. We didn't just set that up at the beginning of the comic to forget it. We're actually paying it off here. And they find Jonah at a very interesting time in his history too. They find him at a point before he actually first had his interaction with Vandal Savage and came in touch with the egg originally. Though Jonah is aware of Vandal and knows that he's a bad dude, knows that he was making trouble in a mining town. It's also funny too, I wonder if this is a new DC mandate or something, but Jonah Hex doesn't dress like a Confederate soldier anymore. They deck him out in brown, where before he's usually always shown to be wearing Confederate grays. I guess they don't want to deal with that whole kettle of fish. And I mean, I really can't blame them for it, but it's something I totally notice. And naturally, no Wild West adventure would be complete without Green Lantern and Batman donning cowboy costumes that naturally complement and represent their original color scheme, right down to Hal having a white hat and a green crushed vest and tie and everything. And it's all very fun. You can tell the artist had a great time drawing this. In fact, the art in general, I'd never heard of this guy's work before. Derington, I want to say, just amazing. You know, blows the doors off everything. Once again, our heroes, backed up by Jonah Hex, hunt down Vandal Savage. He's taken over a mining town, and he's bought himself an army of ninjas. Because, I mean, we've already had dinosaurs, we've already had, you know, hawk people and talking gorillas and everything. You might as well throw some ninjas in here, because like I said, this is a love letter to the Silver Age of comics, where any crazy thing can happen. I gotta take my hat off to Bendis, too, for really keeping Jonah Hex's characterization on point. Because Jonah just, you know, pulls out his gun and just, you know, lays right into Vandal to try and kill him, because you don't know no better. But he also doesn't know that Vandal is an immortal caveman, and that shit just isn't gonna work on him. Hal disappears at this point, getting teleported away. It seems that the egg has a weird effect on Green Lanterns. How about that? But it's also here, too, that Batman gets shocked away once again, and when he comes to, he's in Crime Alley. He's in the place where his parents were shot. And that's pretty bad, but it gets worse because a car pulls up, Vandal steps out and basically drive-by shoots Batman. But this Vandal looks normal. This Vandal looks the way he's supposed to, because clearly Vandal is getting, you know, shot around in time too, and because he's immortal, he can probably run into himself. It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a mind bender. Now, I had definitely been enjoying the comic up until this point, but it's what happened next that really, truly makes me love it. You see, Batman is laying there, dying of his injuries, and even he's noting that this is some real, you know, poetic bullshit, that he should die in the same place where his parents were ultimately killed. And he's talking to Alfred, and he's giving this really heartfelt monologue, probably the most serious the book has gotten at this point, because it has been essentially, you know, a lighthearted, Silver Age inspired comedy. And he's talking to Alfred, and, you know, he says how sorry he is for everything he's put him through, and everything that he's done being by Batman, and all the stuff he's not going to do now because he's dying. And, you know, it's really, really effective, and it really got me, and I even got a little choked up doing it, you know, this level of humanity from Batman. And then they really turn the knife a little more, and you discover that when Batman got shot by Vandal Savage, his little earpiece got knocked out. So when he was spilling his guts to Alfred, no one was actually listening. But naturally, this is a superhero story, and superheroes rarely, if ever, die, and Batman ends up being fine. Mysteriously, he ends up being fine. In fact, his wounds kinda sorta heal themselves, as if by magic. In fact, Batman isn't sure. Is the egg magical? Is it alien? You know, what could it possibly be? This bit is also great, too, because Alfred picks him up from the alley, but also has to try and cover up his own identity with a domino mask, and he literally looks like Kato from the old Green Hornet TV show. Green Hornet, of course, being a popular pulp character. Batman's teamed up with the Green Hornet before. I'm sure this was some manner of direct reference, and I love references like that. And really, sidekicks kind of end up being the major theme of this part of the story, because again, we've seen Batman team up with a bunch of his friends from the superhero community, from the Justice League, from across time and space. Here, though, he teams up with Nightwing, Dick Grayson, the original Robin, and it feels really good. Bendis has a good hand on writing Dick and, you know, Nightwing material in general. They team up, they raid Vandal Savage's submarine base, and it's here Batman theorizes that whatever the egg is, alien technology, it's probably broken. It's broken, it's unstable, and it's incredibly dangerous at the best of times, and it's especially dangerous in the hands of someone like Vandal Savage, who wants to use it to try and cure whatever disease, whatever affliction it is he has. And surprisingly, and I never saw this coming. I rarely get surprised when I read comic books anymore, but again, I would not have made this bet, because it would be a very unsafe bet. It turns out what's inside the egg is actually a White Lantern ring. Batman rolls the dice and says, you know, the Green Lantern oath in, you know, in brightest day and blackest night, and it ends up working, and it ends up attaching itself to him, which makes sense because Batman was a White Lantern once before during blackest night, so he would know how to make that work. Being a White Lantern ring too, that makes sense as to why just being close to the radiation was able to heal Batman's wounds, and why Vandal was hoping he could be able to use it to, you know, cure his sickness, because the White Lantern ring is life. It has dominion over life, so it only makes sense. This ring, though, as we discover, is different from the other White Lantern rings we've seen. It doesn't play by the same rules, and that is because it's an ancient White Lantern prototype, maybe one of the first rings the Guardians ever actually made. Does that gel completely with Green Lantern continuity? I don't know. I'm not that big a Green Lantern buff. I don't think it really challenges or contradicts anything, but even if it didn't, it's outside continuity, so I guess that's okay. The big problem too with the ring being broken is that it can't discern friend from foe, so when John Stewart and the rest of the Green Lantern Corps show up, because this is a ring-related issue now, the White Lantern ring turns Batman into a weapon and starts shooting on the good guys, which really doesn't help Batman's case to the Green Lantern, saying, no, I didn't steal this wasn't my fault, blame Vandal, none of this was me, for once. And with that, we come to what is basically the final chapter of Batman Universe. Batman gets himself trapped inside the ring, and in a very clever, very meta fact, he pretty much recaps the entire story up until this point, which, you know, makes a lot of sense if you're coming in the last part and you need to be reminded what's going on. But also, Batman jokingly says, yes, you know, I'm recording this for posterity so I can listen back to it later. I promise I'm not crazy and just talking to myself, even though it looks like he's going crazy and talking to himself. It's there too. He meets basically the spirit, the architect of this prototype White Lantern ring, a female guardian named Sita, who's not really there. She's more of a computer program, and because the computer program has become corrupted, the ring has become corrupted, that's why it's not working right, and that's why it's become so incredibly dangerous. And it's here too, at the end, things start moving incredibly fast. This is only 6 issues, but it's 6 issues made up of like 2 or 3 smaller short stories, because these were supposed to fit into much bigger Walmart comics. Batman manages to get his way out of the ring. He frees himself, only for the ring to instead to jump onto the next strongest person there without a ring, which is Vandal Savage. Vandal says he's going to use these amazing powers given to him by the Proto-White Ring to erase Batman from all of history, considering that Batman has been such a major thorn in his side across history. And he does it very quickly, and, you know, we see some really cool panels of, like, you know, big moments in DC history that may have happened without Batman, and then there's like maybe a couple pages where Batman's not Batman, he's Bruce Wayne, and he's working this egg thing from another angle. It's kind of cool and kind of clever, but also kind of confusing. Again, I had to read it a couple times, and this is still only what I'm gleaming from it, and it might ultimately not be important because we're basically in the home stretch of the comic anyway, and it's almost done. Batman's ultimately able to track down Vandal Savage again, take back the ring, and knowing that it's too powerful for anyone, he just kind of drops it outside the universe into a black hole. I know it's no dropping the one ring into Mount Doom, but it's basically the closest thing you could get to that. Now, what's really interesting to me about this story, too, is that, you know, despite its huge universe-hopping grand scale, it couldn't end on a smaller note. Batman does what he set out to do when all of this started, and he takes the Fabergé egg back to the museum where it was stolen from. You know, no thank yous needed. He just drops it off and swings off into the night, and that's where the comic ends. And, you know, there's kind of something beautiful and simplistic to that. Like, yes, this was a big story to us, the reader, but to Batman, this was just Tuesday. This is what he does. This is his life. He's used to it. It's not a big deal. And so that was Batman Universe from Brian Michael Bendis, and I gotta say, I was very impressed by this story. I can understand why this book got so many fans and why so many people were trying to get me to read it. This is pretty much everything I wanted from Bendis coming to write for DC Comics. It's, you know, unbridledly creative on one hand, which I feel helps that it kind of existed outside continuity, so Bendis was free to sort of do whatever he wanted and didn't have to feel hamstrung. Not that he doesn't just do that anyway in the Superman book and in the Young Justice book. It just kind of hurts when he does that, where here it doesn't. It was funny in a way I wasn't really expecting. Again, you forget that Brian Michael Bendis is clever and can be really funny, and Batman can be funny too. Basically, in this story, Batman is the ultimate straight man, and they keep, you know, bringing him from crazy situation to crazy situation, getting new comically mismatched partners like this was a buddy cop movie, and, you know, it all just kind of works. You know, the art, as I mentioned before, is really something special. I hope they lock this guy down, and I hope he gets to do more. And, you know, honestly, I would be cool if they did like a Batman universe too. I know they are going to continue to do these Walmart comics, but Bendis isn't coming back to do another 6-issue. They're trading it off and letting someone else do it, which is smart, you know, keep it fresh and new and everything. But yeah, I really liked this. Again, I already did my best comics of the year list, but if I had read it in 2019 when I was supposed to, there's probably a good chance it would have ended up on there. So yeah, with that, I'll start winding the video down. I hope you enjoyed it. If there are any other stories you would like to see me cover in more detail, be sure to tell me down in the comment section below, and I will be sure to try and do this for a future installment of the story so far. I also hope you liked the brand new thumbnail attached to this video. I redid all the thumbnails for this series. I thought I wanted to challenge myself to do something fresh and interesting, and I think it turned out pretty good. I like that. So with that, everyone, I have been Micheal. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all again next time. Bye-bye.